URC round number 13, folks. A bunch of close games this week. A lot of losing bonus points out on display. The Leinster lads suffer their first loss of the season down in South Africa. A late one against the Bulls. There's two Welsh sides in the top 8 positions. She's all go in the URC as we head into the tail end of the season with the Six Nations done. Everybody back in action. Let's go through the results pretty quick of round 13, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. What was the kind of game of the round? Biggest upset, and how do you see the playoff spots sitting? Because the table is still looking a bit of a logjam between basically 5th spot and even 15th. There's still enough time for some teams to get their way up into the playoff spots or other teams to miss out. First game, Cardiff and the Lions played at the same time as Glasgow and Munster. I opted to watch Glasgow and Munster at the time, but I think you would have been pretty good value to watch either of these games because, as I said, close stuff. Cardiff win it by 3 points, despite the fact that the Lions guys dominate the possession and the territory. The Cardiff guys look a wee bit sharper from what limited amount I have seen of this one, to be fair, because, as I said, broadcast at the same time makes it a bit tougher. But line breaks 4-1 to Cardiff. There was pretty much a gift try to Millard, which is maybe the game breaker for this one. The winger for Cardiff gets an intercept try. But, yeah, well, you could have seen that coming from a mile away, to be fair. And Cardiff number 8, Lawrence, makes like 23 tackles in this game. The Lions did get held up at the death. They had scored a couple of tries from close range, but they couldn't quite get a third, as the ref says. Didn't get to ground as the clock was going into the red, and the Lions did have a try TMO'd as well for a forward pass. So bloody close. And for both of those sides, like Cardiff being now on 35 points and the Lions on 30, important result for Cardiff because that keeps them in the playoff positions at the minute, and the Lions are still in that chasing pack. Glasgow and Munster, I did a full match review for this one if you haven't seen that. But yeah, 28-25. Munster will be pretty gutted to have led for 60 minutes. And Glasgow had a late comeback. Tries to Fagerson on 69 minutes and Macbeth on 77. Took it away from the Munster guys. I mean, Gavin Coombs is still continues to impress for mine. I know the Irish national team's back row is a very competitive one, but I mean, the dude tops there for bloody defenders beaten and turnovers won and stuff. He's a very, very good player, but not enough in a losing shift. The line out for Glasgow, to be fair, was looking a fair bit shaky, but they were bolstered by the return of Kyle Steyn, who hasn't slowed down since coming back from injury. That guy really put on some gas and scored a nice try as well. Both sides chucked the ball around a bit in the conditions, which were a wee bit windy, but yeah, 28-25 keeps Glasgow with that kind of leading pack in the URC top of the table. Munster are still in the playoff spots. Despite the loss, they get a losing bonus point, which is better than nothing. The Sharks and Zebre. Goodness me. This is a weird game. Weird game. Like Durban, sunshine, beautiful. And some lovely tries. Really lovely tries. Khaleesi gets a couple. Mapimpi's into some space. Khaleesi got one where he peels off a maul and just, more meters than you've seen Khaleesi run to score a try for a long time. JC gets a really nice one. Ferrari gets one. There's some beautiful tries. I mean, Priscantelli's footballing skills for his one. Fabulous stuff. But the Sharks had to win this one late. 75 minutes, Hooker is able to get the winner, and then Hendrickse with the conversion. Like, key moment. Like, very, very pressure kick to get it. But, man, the Sharks, 23 turnovers conceded to 11. And they conceded 9 line breaks to 3. There's not many games, Sharks fans, that you'll win with those kind of numbers. Dare I say, a better team than Zebre probably would have beaten the Sharks in that game. I mean, Zebre have been much improved, but they are still the 15th out of 16 teams in this competition. They play fun rugby. I don't want to give them any grief. I like watching Zebre play. But, yeah, the Sharks had so many errors, and the Zebre boys had a fair few chances, but some not converted. So, yeah, bizarre result, but it goes down to a kind of grandstand finish. If you're a fan, you probably leave pretty happy. If you're a Sharks fan, late winner, it always makes the drive home a bit easier. So, yeah, and Zebre, you go down to South Africa, you get a losing bonus point, get 4-try bonus point. You might have taken that at the start of the season, to be honest. But, yeah, strange game. And then the other Italian team was in action against Edinburgh. Benetton 21-18. Edinburgh started it with a really lovely try, cross kick from Thompson to McCann. It was a bit of a beauty. And Leinster actually led at halftime 13 points to 11. But they had a red card to Tuipulotu towards the end of the game. And Benetton were able to punish him. And Odogwu, another guy kind of like Stain, who's had a bit of an injury-disrupted time. Good to see that guy back in kind of full pace as well. He scored a try and then set up the other one, the winner again, kind of at the death for SHAvZEB, as Benetton basically had to go from their own half with the clock more or less in the red, 1 minute to play. And SHAvZEB has got some real gas for a flanker to get that winner for Benetton. So, yeah, some nice tries in that one. Benetton, likewise, a little bit not quite as bad as the Sharks, but also coughed up a lot of ball. 17 turnovers conceded is not great numbers for them. And Edinburgh, their line-out also struggled a wee bit. So the Scottish side's line-outs looking a little bit shaky this week, but losing bonus point for Edinburgh, as most teams managed this week. But for Benetton, an important win in keeping their chase for playoff spots alive. Maybe the game of the weekend in terms of just like the two highest position teams going up against each other, Leinster and the Bulls. I looked at the lineups and thought, Bulls should win. But bloody hell, Leinster gave them a go. I know Leinster, they're still fielding a team which is starting Archias Neyman and Geordie Barrett and whatnot. So they've still got some bloody big gun players in their side, and Irish internationals who didn't play in the Six Nations. But I thought Bulls down in South Africa, some Springboks of their own, Bulls should win, but they had to leave it until like the death. And if ever there was a game where the scrum won you the game, this is the game. Like, if you wanted to sell somebody on the importance of scrummaging, show them this Bulls victory. Because without that scrum, there's no way the Bulls win this game. So many penalties won at scrum time. Like, I looked at the penalty count. The penalty count finishes 17-11, with Leinster conceding 17. Boyle concedes 3, Clarkson 2, and Slimani and Soroka each 1. So that's at least 7 of those 17 penalties to your props. I didn't count if all those were at scrum time, but boy, a lot of them were at scrum time, including the last minute kick to win the game that the Bulls got was directly from a scrum. And the scrum kind of got them the field position to get the penalty try from a maul. CARvLIO got one as well. Geordie Barrett got a nice one, and Osborne got a nice one. So Leinster scored some nice tries through the backs, but their scrum, like, they had 6 line breaks to 2, 346 metres to 229, Leinster, but penalties conceded, like I said, 17-11. Ross Byrne's 78th minute penalty. I was like, that's actually pretty nice for Ross Byrne, because that guy gets a lot of grief. Nice for him to hit the winner, but it wasn't the last kick. So, yeah, like 85th minute penalty to win it for the Bulls inflicts Leinster's first defeat of this URC season. But they had to bloody work for it. And as I said, scrum really, really important. The Scarlets and the Stormers boys, that's the biggest result of the weekend in terms of the margin. Scarlets don't come away with a losing bonus point for this one, and they don't get 4 tries either. Both sides, to be fair, made a few errors. They both probably will be a bit frustrated to be leaving some chances out there. Scarlets edged the possession and territory for this one, but the Stormers were certainly more clinical. Like, line breaks is 7-3. The guys like, Similani, his footwork was on display in this one. He finished the game with 4 defenders beaten. And, Scarlets at the start of the second half had a yellow card, but were still looking the team in the ascendancy. They probably didn't make enough of that period. And then the Stormers, like on 73 minutes, I think, the game was still relatively tight. The Scarlets guys were hot on attack, and Warwick Gallant stepped up and won a turnover at the breakdown. So got his team a penalty, kind of got them out of dodge. Real kind of key result. Like, when you think Warwick Gallant, you don't really think turnovers won, but he did it did it really well. And they scored some nice tries. The Stormers guys, like the Zas one. The Scarlets guys won't like to look back on the replay, but it was a nice little set play from the Stormers. So, yeah, and the bonus point on 79 minutes for the Stormers as well. So they come away with this one, you know, pretty happy, even though they missed some chances as well. So that is the kind of biggest result, like I mentioned, in terms of the scoreline this weekend at 29-17. But then there's also the Dragons and Ulster. Another one that goes right down to the death. And I think the Dragons guys will be pretty frustrated to get turned over in their own 22 when they were in the lead, and it directly led to the Scott Wilson try. Scott Wilson is probably my favourite Ulster player right now. What a beast of a man. He's always busting tackles for fun. Dude literally rips the ball at the breakdown when the the Ulster guys are behind. Dragons are for some reason not going for an exit. They're trying a bit of fancy stuff in their own 22, and then he rips the penalty. Not rips the penalty, rips the ball at the breakdown, and then has a kind of couple of seconds to think about what he wants to do. Charges at the Dragons line and is able to go over for a try. Dude is a unit. Love watching that guy play. Fantastic. Really, really. If you haven't seen the highlight of that try, if there's any one try, there's some nice tries this week, but that's the try to watch. That's surely try of the season candidate. From defence to attack, points in a matter of moments. It started really well for the Dragons. Scored first minute. They led a few times. They were up 7-0. They're up 17-7. They were up 24-14. But they're down 34-30 come full time. And it is a bonus point win for Ulster, which again, in terms of their campaign, is pretty important. Ulster had the possession, had the territory. Shane Lewis-Hughes made a bunch of tackles for the Dragons. But, they'll probably rue a bit of the decision-making there towards the end, the Dragons. And then the last one, the Ospreys and Connacht, the kind of missing game. There's no highlights of it, and the footage that I saw of the game on URC TV is missing like 9 minutes of the second half. I guess someone forgot to turn the game back on. Maybe they're still looking for that footage and why there's no highlights. I don't know. But 43-40, that's a hell of a scoreline. That's a crazy, crazy, crazy game. Connacht, I feel like, will be very frustrated that you score a try and literally give away a penalty straight away. So it goes 7-0, 7-3. You score another try, it's 14-3, and then you literally concede a try before you've even had a chance to exit. So 7-0, 7-3, and then 14-3. Then you concede a try, so it's 14-10. Every time you've just got yourself a nice lead, it's eroded more or less immediately. So, yeah, the Ospreys got some nice tries, though. I mean, it was 31-14 at halftime. The Ospreys really put on some points. Guys like Giles and Hardy and Kasende, all got over the whitewash for this one. But they stopped scoring when Kasende got that intercept try early on in the second half. They were up 43. I forget what it was, but the Ospreys will be a bit concerned that the Connacht guys were able to come back as they did. But good on Connacht for keeping on fighting when they were seemingly pretty dead and buried. So they fought back. They managed to get themselves bonus point as well, and then the losing bonus point as well. So 2 bonus points for Connacht, but I still feel like they're a frustrating team at the start when they had Ospreys under pressure to immediately let them off the hook. But it's far from them the only team that does it, but it is frustrating when it happens. The standings after these 13 rounds, top 4 sides, Leinster, Glasgow, Bulls and the Sharks. Leinster are still miles above everybody else on 58 points. Glasgow 49, Bulls 45 and Sharks 44. There's a little bit more compact, but there's still a fair bit of distance between 4th and then the chasing pack, which is Cardiff. Almost a full 10 points, 9 points behind on 35. And then it's a real logjam. Cardiff 35, Munster 34, Ospreys 33, Stormers 33. That's your top 8 sides. And then Ulster 32, Benetton 32, Edinburgh 31, Connacht 31. So these guys are all a win away from getting themselves into the playoff spots. Even the Lions on 30, Scarlets on 28 and Zebre on 27 are probably not dead and buried, but they need to start picking up some wins pretty quick smart. The Dragons are the only ones genuinely well away from everybody else, still to crack double figures on 9 points. But round 14's got some key matches in terms of the playoff race. Ulsters and Stormers. Stormers are only just hanging on to their playoff spot. Ulster are 1 spot behind them on the log, so that is a key match. Edinburgh and the Dragons. Edinburgh will be hoping to bank a full 5 points from that one because the Dragons, as I said, are far adrift from everybody else. The Bulls and Zebre Well, the Bulls are on notice that Zebre are going to play some rugby. But if they can get their scrum going, the Bulls are going to be hard to stop. Connacht and Munster, likewise, two sides in very similar positions. There's only, 3 points separating those two sides. So Munster, a fair bit of pressure to play for the full 80, because as I said, they did let Glasgow back into it, or Glasgow clawed their way back into it, whichever way you want to look at it in their game. Scarlets and Ospreys, all Welsh derby. Ospreys are likewise just hanging on to their playoff spot, so we'll be looking to get a win over their rivals, Sharks and Leinster. Sharks maybe be a little bit inspired by what the Bulls have done here, but geez, the Sharks need to stop dropping the ball. Benetton and Cardiff, likewise, key matchup with two sides not separated by much in terms of the point, and then Glasgow and the Lions. So it seems like an uphill one for the Lions, but if they want to keep their playoff race alive, they basically need to get a win here as well. So there you go, URC round number 13. Barring some missing highlights of that last game and 9 minutes of full game action, she was all go this weekend. Heaps of losing bonus points, heaps of good tries, a few red cards. I forgot to mention the Bulls had a red card in their game, so they won it with a man down. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts on the round. How do you see things going as we get into these final 5 or so rounds, I think it is. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Want to talk some more URC. Take care of yourself, folks, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.